Hey everyone! If you're enjoying the coverage of the Pro Play Tour Online series, just remember, you can play in one yourself. Every Thursday you can enter our free weekly 64-player tournament with invites to the entire Top Cut. Every Saturday is our Weekend Championship, where you can enter a YCS-type event with 100% payout and even a cash payout option. The more players, the bigger the prizes. Can't commit time to play in our one-day events? We also host multiple 8-man pods daily, ready to fire on demand on your own schedule. All these events award invites to our free invite-only Players Championship with prizes supplied by our sponsors. For more information, visit ppgeventmanagement.com and come play with the pros.
What's up YouTube, Dow here from Zeph War Games, bringing you the PPG Weekend Championship number 8, and of course there was no better place to start than of course with Trif's matchup against Misha. Now, before I introduce my amazing co-host for this top cut for the weekend, I will just let you know that the top 8 decks are currently sitting as follows: 2 Salamangreats, 1 Eldritch, 1 Subterra, 1 Madolche, 1 Dino, 1 Adamancipator, and of course Trif with Pendulum. Who said the meta wasn't diverse? Now, bringing you our commentating team for today, we do have, of course, the Twitch streamer, Mambo, and of course, Broadsword as well. So, guys, say hi, and let's get cracking on with the game.
Yeah, excited to be here. I mean, it's great to see this huge diversity in a top 8 after, it's been just months and months of Eldritch and Adamancipator. Really cool to see a lot of people bring out some old decks, probably some of their pet decks, some of their old favorites, and being able to pilot them at such a high level. And Trif, perfect example of that for sure.
Yeah, I think we're going to see, they're just doing the time and start, they're doing the rock, paper, scissors. I don't know how he does this, but Trif seems to win every rock, paper, scissors. I think he should just throw dice in the bin because it's working for him completely. And, we've all seen how many draw cards he plays. We've all seen how fast he burns through his deck, but take nothing away, the boards he ends up producing are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible the amount of consistency that this deck still has, and you can kind of see it here. When you do have cards like Spell Power Mastery, and you have cards like Magician's Souls, Allure of Darkness, all of these draw cards that can really get the engine rolling here. It's incredible that this deck can find so much consistency even after it took so many big hits on the most recent ban list.
Yeah, I mean, they were certainly losing. I thought, personally, losing Servant of Endymion to 1 was quite harsh. I thought, okay, you're going to take away their Electromite, I get that. But then for them to lose, technically one of their newest cards as well, was such a shock. But as you see, Trif can still do it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought it was crazy to see that hit on Servant, especially after I thought going for Electromite was really going for the throat, but as it is, the deck is still around. It's still kicking. It might never die.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see many Pendulum variants either, so it kind of comes to show that there really is only one version that you can kind of play. I suppose like Zephyr is another one, but they're all kind of their own individual engines. What used to be their own individual decks are now individual engines mashed together, and the synergy is crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Zephyr, another deck that's unfortunately been sort of obliterated by the ban list, things like Denglong and all that, some of the more core combo pieces in that deck. But right now we see Trif is definitely off and running as he's managed to get to Crawley and now getting into that Spellbook engine, just more of that consistency we were talking about. Now Servant's ready to go off. And there it is.
Exactly that. And what's so good about this deck is Selene, although it is being used and abused in kind of the link climb ability to get into Access Code Talker, in a deck like this, ooh,
wow. Yeah.
Still looking to earn your invite for the free Players Championship? Visit ppgeventmanagement.com to learn about the different qualifiers available. From one-day events to play-on-your-own schedule events, all events offer a buyback or cash option along with a 100% credit option redeemable towards any future pre-order at competitive prices. Grinding and getting paid to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Has never been easier. Play with the most professional worldwide tournament series today and join the online community. Come join us on Discord for assistance assistance, info, and even discussions about future events.
Yeah, so I mean, I can only imagine that Misha's going to go first on this one. Not really much more of an option you're going to go with this. And this is the biggest difficulty when Trif wins the dice roll or wins the rock, paper, scissors is 9 times out of 10 you'll see that he doesn't actually put in hand traps. He doesn't actually put in any kind of forms of major disruption because it messes with the consistency of his kind of like combo plays and push plays. That being said, winning the dice roll is beyond massive because consistently we're not seeing his board broken. Every time he wins that dice roll or wins that rock, paper, scissors, his board is done. That's it. You can't beat it. And we saw Misha just saw enough, scooped it up. Maybe scooping up to keep the knowledge of what they're playing. But I like to think by this point now, you probably know what's going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of I like you bring that up about scooping to keep knowledge because there are a lot of those small factors that you have to keep in mind, especially when you're playing a deck like, as we see here, Adamancipator. Your combos are pretty lengthy. The Pendulum deck's combos are pretty lengthy, so trying to save time here is also another one of those little small factors that I think is worth considering for sure.
Well, what are your thoughts on kind of like just Trif's like non-stop? You kind of have to admire it. He non-stops, continues with pendulums. Probably one of the only players that doesn't jump from deck to deck, and he still makes it work.
Honestly, I have a lot of respect for people that can, because I can't do it, just play a deck just years on end almost and really dedicate yourself to the craft of perfection, like just that pursuit of perfection, even though, you know, it really deep down, you know, it doesn't exist, but being able to really push your favorite deck to just newer levels all the time and still be that guy that you always go to, knowing that they can do it, that the deck will never die as long as they're around and as long as they care enough about it. It's really cool for sure. And kind of going back to the point you said about no hand traps, it's interesting to see because the deck is really the biggest glass cannon in probably this current format, at least, where it is really variable in terms of you have to max out on all these draw cards and keep it as consistent as humanly possible, but at the same time you're sacrificing a lot of interaction on your opponent's turn, as we're kind of seeing here as Adamancipator gets rolling.
Yeah, I mean, Adamancipators are absolutely incredible. The consistency that they pump out and the fact that they can just boost these insane boards and keep on going. And we've also seen in the past how they can just get past stuff like Nibiru's, they get past stuff like Imperms, Ashes. They just have so many different resources that it's very difficult to stop them once they get going. If enough Omni Negates are set up at this end board, probably going to see Trif maybe concede it or take a bit of time in it, then concede it, and then move into game 3 where he'll no doubt have the highest advantage.
Oh yeah, certainly no rush here either. I believe we're only 6 minutes into the round, so this will be a nice speedy one from here.
Oh, apologies. I had a little minor mic problems for a second there. But Bortle here. Back to the question with Trif playing and stuff with this Pendulum deck. I think it's very exciting that he's actually sticking with the deck for so long and evolving with this deck. I unfortunately had to evolve with everyone else. So
sometimes you just have to. I mean, the pendulum mechanic, in my opinion, is what keeps it alive. Yes, okay, some of the cards within the deck are incredibly powerful. But the mechanic of just being able to go, okay, scale, here's everything I've got, plus I can start setting up my own Omni Negate, really keeps it alive. And it's kind of what allows the deck to keep on going. Unlike certain decks that just don't evolve as well with kind of the formats or the progression of time. Nonetheless, our top 8 is so diverse right now, it's crazy. And we get to see pretty much each week now, we're seeing different versions. Like we saw Busted Ladies yesterday, we saw ABCs as well. It's absolutely crazy, but it's nice to see a very decent variety as well.
Yeah, variety is always a good thing to see for the most part. I know there's always kind of that age-old debate on would you rather play in a deck where 20 decks are viable or a format where only one, maybe two decks are viable? But for me, I always like seeing a lot of variety, especially in scenarios like this where we have seen just a lot of optimization of each deck in the meta has undergone so many changes to get more and more optimal. And I think that's been really interesting to see. I think Adamancipator and Pendulum here are two of the best examples of that as well.
Oh yes, most definitely. This top eight's very, very very diverse, and I think that's really great for the game. Although a lot of players are expecting a ban list anytime soon, I feel like the format just started with all this diversity in here.
Yeah, brought the fresh air for sure.
Without a doubt, and I think we're seeing we saw the resurgence thanks to Ryan YuGiOh of Sky Striker. Some people might see that as a good thing, some people might see it as a bad thing. We also see Salads come back into the fold as well. Gabriel Soze actually winning it last week's championship as well. I honestly don't think a modern ban list, and what I mean by a modern ban list, I mean something that's going to hit Eldritch and Adamancipators directly, is necessary, because you do that, people that want to play the decks that couldn't because of lockdown and quarantines and stuff like that, aren't going to have the pleasure to do so. And I think that the format is so varied right now that if you build the deck correctly, it's anyone's game.
Yeah, can never understate the importance of game knowledge and just having that understanding of what every single deck in the meta. Basically, how I like to look at it is when I see my opponent making a play, is I'm able to sort of get in their mind and do, be able to do all of their plays for them. So that way I can think about 3-4 turns ahead. And I think that's something you can never understate. And it's something that I think a lot of players that do so well with a lot of these, I suppose they call them off meta or rogue decks. You see that a lot, where it is just a complete mastery of their own deck and then also a complete mastery of everyone else's deck. And that allows them to do so well.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting as well. I haven't seen anyone actually use Artifact Dagda in Adamancipators yet. I mean, it might be something that I've missed personally, but this is interesting. And we've got the Tornado Dragon as well. So this is going to be... I don't know how Trif breaks this. I mean, we're going to get Cypher that's going to trigger, completely shutting... well, I say that. The hand of a Pendulum player can sometimes be just as good as their extra deck. Being able to bring out Mighty Master, heck, even if he builds up enough counters on one of his scales to bring out the Mighty Master, as long as he gets past Tornado, I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. But it'll still be interesting to see.
Definitely an uphill battle. So we're looking at 4 monster effect negations with Appaloosa. You're locked out of the extra deck unless there's some form of interaction here in standby. Boral Savage Dragon does give you 1 Omni Negate on the turn, and your monsters cannot be targeted with card effects right now, thanks to Gate Blocker there.
Oh, your opponent cannot place counters on cards on the field.
Yeah.
Wow. And yeah, they can't target other monsters you control with card effects. That is... Yeah, didn't even realize that secondary's effect, or that the whole effect of Gate Blocker.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, that's the hard Pendulum counter, but they do have the one card that counters big boards.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much one of the only cards that Trif needs to or does put into his deck. It doesn't really mess with the consistency, especially when he knows he's going second. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's still locked out of the extra deck thanks to Scythe, but he definitely now has the ability to try and climb the board back from his hand, like we mentioned, to kind of, I mean, maybe going for the Mighty Master play, if he has it, is his best bet, because that can then give him the ability to clear the majority of this board off. I can only imagine that Misha's set is probably something like an Imperm.
I think that's a pretty good read on that, yeah. I agree with you, too. I think the Mighty Master Pendulum effect is probably your best chance in getting back here. Now, fortunately, Dark Ruler is going to negate that Gate Blocker we just mentioned, meaning that counters can be placed. And the only thing we have to worry about is Scythe applying that lingering continuous effect with still locking out of the extra deck. But It's probably pretty doable here. There's assuming that that isn't an impermanence or there's no other forms of interaction with that last card in hand. This is pretty doable.
Yeah, I think the amount of time that Trif's taken, he's clearly trying to calculate his options. I don't think it's, as long as he keeps the game moving in a progressive state, I honestly don't think it's in his interest to rush anything. Because, I mean, if he breaks this board, that's going to be impressive on its own. And then being able to kind of pretty much take it all the way from that point on, because I can't see Nisha coming back if it does get broken.
Yeah, recovery would definitely be, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it would be very difficult given how much resources they use or how many resources they used here. And yeah, that's a great opener right there.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to net so much. Now, if that is an imperm, my gut is telling me to hit the blue boy. Don't let the search of knowledge happen, because then it would only leave Trif with 2 cards left in hand. Ooh, or just prank the back.
Problem solved.
Broken. His open hand was the nuts.
Now, if this is impermanence, I think you're going to want to use this because that can, yeah, that will at least turn off the magical abductor here over in the pendulum zone.
Yeah, I think that would be very important just to kind of turn that off in order to kind of keep going. Otherwise, Trif technically in the next card will have normal summon blue boy, get the knowledge. Knowledge will then give him a draw plus an additional spell, making Abductor 1 short and making Endymion live. So yeah, definitely the correct call on that.
Now, so it would seem based on the sequence of events here, the Pankratops decided not to chain that to try and remove another card. But I suppose at this point the body actually is quite valuable as it does beat over every single card on Misha's board right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that any of these monsters are massive threats. I think the biggest threat right now is Savage Dragon, and that's just because it's the strongest on the board. But Trif is now technically able to go off, unless Misha is sitting on like a hidden Nibiru to kind of clear up. But I highly doubt that right now, because especially they don't have the zones to play it.
Nibiru would be a surprise here, but I've seen crazier things for sure. But so Servant now up to 4 counters. At this point, you are looking at least 3 cards on this board you can currently out. And I mean, I don't know. Do you think that would really be good enough if you were able to just out the Boral Savage? The Apollo has no attack points anymore. It's not going to go back up as its effect has been negated by Dark Ruler. And a lot of the rest of these cards really just aren't threatening you in any way.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's no tuner on the board either, so you would like to think that if the tuner does hit the board, it will get met with the Prankatops. But there is still the Block Dragon Engraved, which is currently not live. Ideally, that Gate Blocker needs to be in the grave to make Block Dragon live, or you just banish it from the field. Sorry, not from the field. It has to be from hand or grave. But if there's another rock in the hand, you banish that, bring the Block Dragon back, link it off, depending on what is left in that extra deck, which is looking mighty thin right now on 6 cards. Ooh.
Oh, wow. So what do we think they might be playing a little bit scared of here to not use the Servant right away, I wonder?
See, maybe an Ash, but even then, I'm not sure that this is the best form of play from Trif. I would have checked the graveyard out and noticed that there's no that Block Dragon is offline.
Plan B it is. Mystic Mind comes down.
Wow.
Okay.
My goodness.
I mean, I don't think Trif could have picked his hand better. Before draw cards, he had the prank in hand the Servant and the Abductor, so that's nuts.
I think he maybe would have wanted to pick his draws a little better, but hey, this looks like it might just work.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I can't imagine Misha has any back row hate in the deck. If you're going first, well, I take that back because, I mean, you know your opponent's going to be playing Scale, so there might be a Cosmic hidden deep down, but you kind of need to reduce your monster count for sure, because it still pretty much gives Trif free reign to build his board to at least a minimum of 5, maybe 4 monsters, and then pick your board apart and get that damage done.
yeah, it's going to be a big waiting game here for a while, I think. Now, the Servant is pretty loaded here with counters. Magical Abductor is now free from impermanence, so assuming you can hit a handful of spells here, you can start slowly accumulating advantage until you decide, and basically until you decide you want to kill your opponent here.
Yeah, I think maybe that was the caution play that Trif went with, is the fact that he maybe relies on the Abductor to get that exact card that he needs. So just mining it, passing it, is more than enough for him to kind of get where he needs to. Make that Abductor now live, and then start to kind of accumulate the hand of maybe going for the Master play. I suppose, can Master, I don't know off the top of my head, but can Master take out, I think you can take out your own cards as well. So that's one way you clear the board, get rid of your own Mystic Mine, and then swing in for an OTK as well.
Fortunately, I don't recall that part of Mighty Master's effect either, but that would definitely work. That would be a pretty advanced next level play there, especially if you are able to get up enough counters here. I mean, I've seen Mighty Masters wipe, what do we have here, 7 cards? I've seen more than that even. Now, do we think this is an interesting time to pop the Servant here, to go ahead and grab out of deck?
I mean, I'm not too sure. I'm a bit concerned that Misha put the Block Dragon on the board, because it technically means Trif has enough cards to pretty much get up to 4 monsters and clear the board off. So Mighty Master also destroys up to that number of cards on the field. So he definitely has the ability to clear house and clear that Mystic Mine. And with the power plays that Pendulums have, definitely get game on from here as well.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to be going for that particular endgame right now. Still got a little bit of time, but it's a little bit against them now that they've decided to commit to the board. Oh, never mind. They're just going to drop it right now.
So that was 6. Be interesting to see which 6 he takes out. Misha was thinking about this is interesting.
So if I remember, yeah, the Mighty Master, you remove 6 special, then you count the number of cards with a spell counter, destroy up to that many cards on the field. So removing 6 from the Servant and the Jackal King, that does only give 1 pop if I'm reading this card correctly.
Where are we?
Interesting.
So I think it's because it's a then effect. It counts himself, so it gives him 2 pops. I mean, it looks like 4 cards left the board. So
yeah, this is why we aren't the judges for sure. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna go for slowly but surely getting through the board here.
Master Magician is cards that can have a spell counter on it. So he would have had 4 pops. So he would have been Servant, Mighty Master, Magical Abductor, and of course Jackal himself as well. Clearly taking out the Mystic Mine, taking out the back row, which is a threat, Savage Dragon, and then the Dragda, which was interesting. Did the Dragda have anything? supposed to set one artifact monster from the hand or deck.
Yeah, and at this point, blinking away into Daybreaker, that gives you even more destruction for your opponent than being able to pendulum back the Mighty Master. Reflection gives you a bounce, removing the Block Dragon, since Block Dragon does prevent destruction for all of your rock monsters. And now, man, they're just going to keep on going here, just to establish even more damage on board. And this Apollo is at 0, so it is not doing much of anything right now.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to kind of come back. Absolutely impressive. And then access just to rub salt in the wound. Yeah.
Really well played to sort of bide your time there, using Mystic Mind to plan out, really thinking 2-3 turns ahead there to plan out your turn, being able to use that Mighty Master to remove the entire board there. Very well played.
Still looking to earn your invite?